Hey, 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 what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Unlocking Excellence podcast, or just Unlocking Excellence. I'm your host, Eric Schwafel. It's great to have you here today. I'm so excited about today's episode. It's episode number 6, and it is entitled Failure is Feedback, or something along those lines, right? Failure is feedback. Now, we're going to get into this. It's going to be great. So check it out. If you haven't listened to any of the other podcasts, I highly encourage you to do that. They kind of build off of each other, and they will continue to build off of each other. And we'll have different variations of things coming up. If you haven't shared this out already, I would love to be able to reach more people. So if you enjoy this, you'll hear that again a little bit at the end. And if you want to check us out more often and know when we release new podcasts, then please go ahead and hit the subscribe button or check out our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, one of those things. And you'll be able to get YouTube. You'll be able to get updates of when the new episodes are coming, and then different content throughout the week. I like to post a lot of positive things, a lot of motivational things that are applicable and that you can use day to day in order to make your life a little bit better. So without further ado, let's get into this podcast. Let's get into this section. So today we're going to talk about why failure is feedback, why it's not the end, but more of a means to an end, right? So I guess the first place that we need to start is we need to define what exactly failure is. Right now, a lot of people may end up saying that failure is, well, it's failure. It's not succeeding. And that's exactly it, right? The definition, the dictionary definition of failure is the lack of success. Failure is an act or an instance of failing or proving unsuccessful, lack of success. An example is his effort ended in failure. It's non-performance of something due, required, or expected. A failure to do with what one has professionally, with what one has promised. A failure to do with what one has promised, and a failure to appear. Sorry, I was checking out the notes right here. Another definition is a subnormal quantity or quality in insufficiency, the failure of crops, right? So why is failure so important? It makes a lot of sense. Failure, as much as it hurts, is an important part of life. In fact, failure is necessary. Without failure, we'd be less capable of compassion, empathy, kindness, great achievement. We would be less likely to reach for the moon and the stars. You see, failure is exactly how it sounds. It's not doing something successfully. It's not being able to lose the weight that we want to lose or make the money that we want to make. It can be whatever it is, but failure isn't a stopping point, right? I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up. There seems to be a rule, if something doesn't work the first time, or an understood rule of thumb nowadays, that if something doesn't work the first time, then it's just not meant to work, and we should move on and we should find something else. Well, if that's the case, then that process, that protocol of trying something new every time that something doesn't work, it allows you to try everything. Well, when you figure out that everything doesn't necessarily work, it will allow you to go back to the things that do work, right? So failure is just something that attempts to stop your long-term success. It's a short-term setback, right? It's a very short-term setback. So if we've defined that failure is lack of success, what is failure to success, right? What is their relation? Success is when something which you've been working for and wanting to happen happens. Failure is the opposite. Failure is just another form of success which people don't tend to look at. That doesn't mean that failing is not failing, but what I mean to say is that failure shouldn't be seen as just failure, right? It shouldn't be seen as just failure. It shouldn't be seen from just one angle. Failure needs to be seen by several different angles. It needs to be seen in all directions. Because if you come from the mindset, the growth mindset of we can learn something from everything, then failure is just another stepping stone. Failure is just a way to do better next time. So what is the cause of failure? Failure causes are defects in design, process, quality, or part application, which are the underlying causes of a failure. It initiates a process. Let me say the cause of failure is the initiation of a process where failure is led to either a machine error or it's led by a machine error or by a human error. Normally failure comes from some type of error. It's from missing the mark, from not being conscious too, right? Sometimes it happens because it's just part of the process. It happens from lack of knowledge, from ignorance. Sometimes failure happens because we half-ass things a lot and we don't really like to do the things that we need to do and how we need to do them. There are a lot of things that failure can do that will bring us down negatively, but there are a lot of things that it can do that will bring us up a little bit more in a positive sense, right? It really depends upon you. Failure is just a thing, right? As we said in the beginning, failure is just feedback. It tells you about how your actions, your mind state, your thoughts, anything about you, it tells you how that interacts and how that works and how it engages with the rest of the world, with whatever it is that you're doing. So let's think about that for a second. Just because I like to use nutrition and exercise, as y'all know, but say you go and you exercise for a little bit, you exercise for 3 weeks, but you aren't seeing the results that you want. You didn't lose the 30 pounds. Well, does that mean that you're unsuccessful? Does that mean that you failed? Yes and no. It means that you failed to yourself because you set a goal and you didn't reach that goal. But it also means that there are adjustments that can take place. And it means that there's some things that we can look at in order to adjust and to make yourself successful, because success really depends on what your definition is of it, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So with failure, the main lesson right here is so far into this podcast is it's just feedback. It's a stopping point. It's a setback, and it's a time to readjust and to refocus. If you see failure from that scarcity, from that victim mindset, and you see failure as a stopping point, like an end all be all, like I can't go beyond this because I failed, then you won't. It's like what Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. What failure can also do is it can teach us lessons. Failure can keep us hungry, and it can keep us humble. It can keep us compassionate. Failure can help us overcome fear. Failure can help us recommit to our goals. Failure can inspire creative solutions. It can inspire you to ask for help. It can inspire you to make and find more valuable mentors. It can help you become a more valuable mentor. It can offer a strong support system. It can change your entire realm of thinking if you think about this. Failure is one of the greatest blessings that we encounter throughout our lives. However, our mindset in society and as we grow has viewed failure as a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, the feelings associated with failure are uncomfortable and they're unsettling. They don't necessarily feel great, and we tend to over dramatize what it means about us personally. We take failure personal. Failure itself is a result. Failure itself is feedback. What really can hold us in our own prison is our fear of failure and our thoughts of failure. What that means about us, what other people think it means about us, what we think other people think about us or feel about us because they saw us fail. Life's greatest success isn't necessarily about, or life's greatest fear isn't necessarily about failing. Sometimes life's greatest fear is about doing something and actually being successful at it and having a change along the way. Failure is a teacher. Failure is a teacher. Failure can bring us closer to those around us. Failure can break things that were toxic for us. Failure can change us from a fundamental level, whether it's because of the fear of failure, whether it's the success of failure, or the lessons in failure. It's interesting, right? Because there are so many things that we can do to fail. We can fail to plan. We can fail to execute. We can give in to the fear and not even try or attempt. We can give up too soon. And that's got to be one of the biggest ones as to why people don't find their success, is because they give up too soon. I'm sure you've heard the story about the miner who was underground and he had been digging for days and weeks and he never found his diamonds. Years even, and he never found his diamonds. And then he found a friend of his who had been digging half the time he had, but found something, a diamond, found a few diamonds. And he found enough where he didn't have to dig anymore. Well, that miner, because he had been digging for so much longer and he didn't get what he was looking for, he gave up. And it's a little image, it's a little picture, you can find it, but what you see on the other side of maybe one or two more shovels or hits with the pick is that the miner who had been mining for years would have found an immense treasure if he only had been going just a little bit further. There's this big thing about disbelief, not being able to believe in yourself, your product, your service. That can end up causing failure. Because how do you expect to sell something? How do you expect to give something to someone if you don't even expect or think that that thing is worth it? There are so many salesmen, personal trainers, there are so many business people out there that won't even try. There's so many people in general population that won't even try because they don't have the belief. They talk themselves out of it. And of course, how do they talk themselves out of it? They make excuses. Making excuses is the last one that we have there. Guaranteed ways to fail is failing to plan, giving into the fear, giving up too soon, disbelief, and making excuses. One way to either successfully move forward or to stay where you are is to find evidence as to why the thing that you believe or don't believe is true or not true. So if you choose to believe that an event is a failure, you will find evidence within yourself to guarantee and to stick with and to concrete that belief, that value, that whatever experience that was a failure. Does that make sense? If you want to find a way for something to be successful or you want to do something, you will find the evidence in order to tip the scales so that you can see that thing as successful, so that you can see whatever it might be that you've experienced as a win. We humans are amazing at doing this, especially kids. Kids will do whatever it takes to be successful and to get what they want. Whatever it takes. And it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. One of my favorite examples is, I'm sure you've seen a kid who wants a candy bar in the grocery store, right? If they want that candy bar, or they want something and mom or dad doesn't want to give it to them, sometimes that kid will throw themselves on the ground and scream bloody murder. I want that candy, whatever it might be. Give it to me. Sometimes, at least when I was growing up, the parent, that kid would get a whooping. They would not be tolerated, right? Sometimes you see the parent puts that candy and they put whatever it is in their hand, they give it to them. Kids don't care. They're shameless, man. They will go after what they want, whatever it takes. No regrets, right? If it's meant to be, it's up to me. That's their thinking. They don't even know it yet. Failure is just feedback, y'all. Failure is just feedback. So, have you ever heard of failing forward? Maybe, right? Failing forward is about leveraging mistakes, about making a realistic assessment of risks, and the ability to live with the downside and experiment with new approaches. I'm going to say that again, right? Because I have this written down. Failing forward is about leveraging mistakes, making a realistic assessment of risks, and the ability to live with the downside of your failure and experiment with new approaches. Failing forward is an investment in human success. So what you can do is, one, give up the fear of the false evidence appearing real. Number two is you begin to see failure in a new light, from a new perspective. You begin to see failure as a way to move forward. All this situation, these circumstances was just a way to move a little bit closer to the solution. I believe it was Thomas Edison who said, I didn't fail to make the light bulb 10,000 times. I learned 10,000 ways to not make the light bulb. And believe it or not, now you can correct me on this, but believe it or not, Thomas Edison actually did not create the light bulb, but he created a cheaper, more affordable version of the incandescent light bulb, right? So he had something in mind, something that was already invented, and he improved upon this. He didn't look as his failures as setbacks. He looked at them as launching pads, as places where he could lift off and he could go before. Because now, after a failure, you have more information than you did before. You now know for a fact that what it is that you did does not work. It does not deliver success. And I laugh because isn't that a good thing? You figured out this way of doing things does not bring you what you want. Now you're one step closer to knowing or figuring out a way to get what you want. You don't keep acting insane and doing the same thing over and over and over. Failure, this is a good one, dropping bombs here. Failure removes insanity. Failure is a way to take yourself out of insanity. As long as you learn from it, learning from failure, failing forward is a way to remove insanity from your life. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, but expecting a different result. So I did a little bit of research and I found 5 top secret ways to turn your failure into success immediately. And you may have heard a couple of these already throughout the podcast. If you're still listening, you can write these down and you will be able to save so many people so much time by sharing this with them. And what I mean by that is, number 1, you change your mental model of success and failure. The first top secret way to help you turn failure into success immediately is to change your mental model of success and failure. Redefine what success is. Redefine what failure is. Re-listen to this podcast and go and listen and get a piece of paper and rewrite what is success to you in every area of your life. In fact, if you haven't already, with it being, should be February when this is released. We're already in February. If you haven't done this, I encourage you, email me and I'll help you, because we want you to succeed in every area of life. And if you don't know what success is, then you won't become successful. And of course, redefine what failure is, because failure is feedback. It's just something that you're learning. It's a step in the journey. Number 2, top secret way to turn your failure into success immediately. Write this down. Number 2, intentionally increase your fail rate. What? Try new things. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Get out there. Throw yourself into the woods. Throw yourself into the waves. Throw yourself into the wind. I didn't become what I think is a pretty good trainer, humbly, by not practicing, not experimenting, and not experiencing. If you screw up, if you F up, that's okay. It's part of the process. If you F up, if you fail up, isn't that a good thing? Ooh, that's a good one, right? If you fail up, F up all the time. Next up, set quote unquote no goals. Okay. Set no goals. There's two ways that can be taken. Okay. Like SET, set, quotation mark, no, N-O, and quotation mark goals. There's 2 ways that can be taken. Number 1 is don't set goals, set no goals until you have your vision. Set no goals until you have your vision for your life and your areas of life. Goals are byproducts of your vision. If you know you want to live a healthy life, then goals would be to work out a couple of days a week, to eat better, and then to get enough sleep, maybe even throw a fourth one in there to get enough water. If your vision is to own your own business and to not work 40 hours a week, wrong goal. No, I'm just kidding. If that's your goal, then you've got to set, okay, you need a loan, you need X amount of people. This is what you need in order to set up the business. Those are goals. They are a byproduct of the vision. Another way this can be taken, set quote unquote no goals, is establishing boundaries. When you tell people no, like, no, I can't do this, you're giving them, one, the opportunity to take responsibility and ownership for themselves. Two, you're setting up boundaries. And then three, you're standing for yourself. You're not people-pleasing anymore. In most cases, you're not people-pleasing anymore. You're showing that what you have to offer, what you have to give, the value that you have, your time is more valuable than giving it up. And that's tough, man. That's very, very tough. You got to be selfish every once in a while, especially when it comes to failure. You can see courage as a muscle. You can see courage as a muscle. It's a big one, right? Being able to get up after you fall down 7 times, stand up 8, an old Japanese proverb. Being able to stand up after you fall, being able to face all the people that you feel like are judging you makes a difference. See courage as a muscle. It might be weak at first. What happens when you first start working out? You don't know anything that's happening. You don't know anything about yourself. You don't know anything about your body, but over time, your body begins to adapt, get results. You gain muscle, you lose fat, you look the way that you want, and you change the things that you do in the gym in order to change your body. This is that exact process. Number 5, write this down. Celebrate your failures, not just your successes. That changes your mindset and your definitions about it, right? If you start seeing and celebrating your failures, like, yes, that was a high five. Yes, this isn't something that is bringing me down, but it's something that is bringing me up. It's helping me move forward. You'll be happy about it. You'll be able to shrug it off. You're not going to spend so much time in your doubting position or whatever position and inner stance that you're in. You won't remain as a circle person as much anymore, or a zigzag person. You'll be able to see, okay, this didn't work. Let me try something else. And you'll move in the straight line direction, right? And I'm going to throw another one in there. That was 5, the top 6 secrets to help you turn failure into success immediately. Number 6, you can just say no. It's part of the no goals, right? You can just say no to whatever it is that you think you need to say yes to. It might be a little weird at first. It might be a little uncomfortable and unsettling. But if you were able to say no in times where you feel like you need to say yes, it's very beneficial. Failure can make a person stronger. Those same weightlifters who lift to failure also have to learn that this is the way to build muscle. At first, the tissue is damaged. It heals bigger and heals stronger. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't hurt or it doesn't necessarily feel good. When we let discouragement hold us back, failure makes our desire burn hotter. Think about that. When you go to the gym, you are literally breaking down your muscle. You're creating micro trauma within the muscle. You're tearing apart the microfilaments. That's why it's important to eat, recover, sleep, drink. What does that do? Believe it or not, it helps out in recovery and it helps rebuild you stronger, faster, better, more clear-minded, especially through circumstances. It's all the same thing. It's just different areas of life. So if you can choose to see failure, I mean, you go to the gym and you literally fail every day. There are some guys who will go in there and they will lift weights until they can't lift the weight anymore. Then they'll take the weight off and they'll keep lifting and they'll can't anymore. I don't know if you are familiar with what a drop set is, but a drop set is when you put the heaviest amount of weight that you can on a bar for a certain amount of reps. So maybe doing like a 300-pound bench press for 10 reps. And then you drop to 250 pounds, you do as many as you can. Then 200 pounds, as many as you can. Then 150 pounds, as many as you can. And then 100 pounds, as many as you can. And then you can go to the bar, which is 45 pounds, and you can do as many as you can. And you keep going until you can't even lift a 45-pound bar off your chest. You better believe that when you come back post-recovery, you bench again, you're going to be stronger. So 10 healthy ways to cope with failure, because it can be tough, in order to move forward. You want to embrace those emotions. You want to recognize unhealthy attempts to reduce pain. You want to practice healthy coping skills like exercise, talking to people, staying active, getting out in the sun, journaling, reading. You want to acknowledge irrational beliefs about failure. Again, it's all about mindset. This shit is 99% in your head. Some would even argue it's 100% in your head. Acknowledge irrational beliefs about failure. Develop realistic thoughts about failure. So acknowledge the irrational and acknowledge what is false, and then support what is true. Dropping bombs. Dropping freaking bombs. Next up, research famous failures. Go research Oprah Winfrey. Go research Ray Kroc. Go research the McDonald brothers. Go research Steve Harvey. Go research Albert Einstein. Go research Kyle Maynard. Go research freaking Colonel Sanders, Walt Disney. Go research J.K. Rowling. Go research Cristiano Ronaldo. Go research Reggie White. Go research all these. There are tons. There are thousands of different stories. Go research almost any war. There are thousands of different stories that you can use to see and support yourself when you don't believe enough in your mission, in yourself, and your task at hand. Ask yourself what you can learn. That's my favorite. What can I learn from this? How can I turn this into a positive? What can I learn from this situation? Can I learn to move differently? Can I learn to eat differently? Can I learn to act differently? Can I learn to communicate differently? How can I make this better? And then do it. Actually do it. Create a plan for moving forward. I like to take after the Eastern way of living. And I mean like living very unstructured and somewhat chaotic. You allow life to do what life does, right? But having a plan in place and knowing what to do, defining what success is, creating the vision, listing the goals, and then writing the steps out makes things a whole lot easier. You just got to be able to roll with the punches, man. Every once in a while, that plan's not going to go right as you want it to. That could be considered a failure. But if you acknowledge the irrational beliefs, you develop realistic thoughts, you practice good coping skills, and you embrace your emotions, you can move forward, right? Number 8, ask yourself what you can learn. Number 9, create a plan for moving forward. Number 10, face your fears of failure. I'm going to read them to you one more time. Embrace your emotions, recognize unhealthy attempts to reduce pain, practice healthy coping skills, acknowledge irrational beliefs about failure, develop realistic thoughts about failure, accept an appropriate level of responsibility. I think I missed that one. Accept an appropriate level of responsibility, research famous failures, ask yourself what you can learn, create a plan for moving forward, face your fears of failure, and by accepting that level of responsibility, you can then take ownership of the situation and move forward and do something about it. Until you own something, you can't do shit about it. You can't do shit about it. So with that being said, y'all, failure is feedback. That's all it is. It's telling you, failure is telling you this, what you're doing is not working. It's not achieving the result that you want currently with the actions that you're taking. Look at the law of attraction, right? Be, do, have. First you must be, then you must take action, and then you will be able to have the result. It says it in the Bible, ask and it will be given. But first you need to know what you want. You need to find success. It is by faith through works. Just because you want something to happen, if you're not working towards it, if you're not actually taking action and giving effort and directing where the energy goes, it's not going to happen. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. If it's up to you, if it's up to me, it's meant to be, right? All these little cliche coaching phrases, oh, they're so true. They're so juicy. So y'all, what is the transformational takeaway? If you haven't gotten it, failure is feedback. The only real failure is giving up. Choose a different mindset. Get a friend to help. Say no where you need to say no. Identify what's real. Identify what's fake. Take responsibility. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge yourself. I saved that for the end. Don't judge yourself. And then keep moving forward. I hope you have a great day. I love you. You're unstoppable. You're amazing. Keep killing it. If you enjoyed this podcast, I really, really, really would appreciate it if you shared this thing out. Maybe you tag somebody, send it to somebody. Let them know, like, hey, this affected me. This changed my life in this kind of way. And if it did, I would love if you could rate and review us on iTunes or whatever platform that you're looking or listening to this at. If you want to check out the video, go ahead and check out YouTube. And if you have any questions, just email me at eric@schwefelstrength.com. I hope you have a great day. And remember, life's happening for you, not to you. You, my friend, are unstoppable.